Hello, BookTube, and welcome to day 5 of Litmas, the literary event of the season, which was created by Adrian at Strip Cover Lit, in which every day, those of us who are participating, and I really wish that it was 1,000 people who were participating because the videos are all great, every day we examine the literature in our lives according to the tune called by Adrian for that day. And the tune for today is your favorite haiku, BookTube. So I did a little reading. I've got a mountain of work to do. Every day looks like it might be the day when I simply cannot do anything but work. And yet I find time to make videos, and I guess that's what matters. I did some reading. Here in the book room. I went to the Dictionary of Poetry and Poetics. I went to the Oxford Book of English Verse. I went to the two big world poetry anthologies that I have. And I went online, of course, as well, to examine what exactly haiku is and what kind of tradition it has. Because my reaction to it has always been that it's poetry for lazy people. It's 17 syllables. First line is 5 syllables. Second line is 7 syllables. Third line is 5 syllables. And as far as I can tell, 90% of doing haiku is counting. It's math. And because 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables almost necessarily forces you to be slightly enigmatic and slightly aphoristic, haiku is the best possible fake ID to get you into the nightclub of the literati that I can conceive. Flash fiction, which is fiction for lazy people, isn't the same. If you take a page of flash fiction, 2 paragraphs, and you show it to somebody who doesn't know anything about flash fiction, they're going to say, well, that seems kind of easy. I could do that myself. It looks like you pulled this out of your tuchus. They're not for a minute, unless they're in flash fiction circles, they're not for a minute going to suspect those 2 paragraphs of profundity. Whereas, with haiku, I have noticed in my research, in my reading, in my looking around, that because these things are enigmatic and aphoristic, they just beg the reader to import all kinds of profundity that isn't there. That was my original characterization of haiku. My knee-jerk reaction to it is that it's not dactylic hexameter, it's not rhyming couplets, it's not a sonnet, it's not an epic poem. What on earth? So I read around. I knew that a lot of you were going to mention Basho, so I have 2 Penguin classics of him. I took them down, read the introductions, read all of the poems. I have a big collection of Japanese and Chinese literature in translation, and I scoured through that as well. And I found a bunch of great appreciations on YouTube, of course, the place where I go for all of my questions. And I have, because I'm late getting to Litmas Day 5, I have watched some of your videos. All of that done in an attempt to broaden my knee-jerk reaction and get me into the spirit of haiku. And it failed. No, I was right at the beginning. Haiku is poetry for lazy people. But that, of course, necessitated that I don't have a favorite haiku. I'm afraid. I have a volume called Haiku, which is full of centuries of this stuff, of blue herons and sunsets and snow on the top of Mount Fuji, and all of it's drivel. It's very pretty for a fraction of a second. It's not even a moment. I've seen a lot of descriptions that haiku captures a moment. It doesn't. It captures a single synapse in your brain. It's not even a moment. And it's easy to do, which ought to be the first giveaway that it's kind of cheap if it's easy to do. I mean, if I told you, take a piece of paper and write a Shakespearean sonnet, a Marlowean sonnet, here are the rules. Well, good luck. I bet that in an hour you wouldn't be done. And if you were, I would be willing to bet that the sonnet you created at the end of that hour would be noticeably bad. Even as somebody who doesn't know anything about poetry, it would be noticeably bad. They would read it and say, okay, this doesn't really work at all, does it? But if you take 2 minutes to craft a haiku about a frog, you can convince a bunch of people in a literary lounge in Cambridge, Massachusetts, that there's something there. Yeah, man. So I don't have any favorite haiku from the haiku that I have in this room. Turns out I have a rather large number of haiku in this room, which is kind of interesting. I always forget the treasures that is the wall of penguins. But since I don't have a favorite haiku, I'm going to resort to the same thing I did with flash fiction and give you some of my own. These are some haiku that I have crafted over the years. Just kidding. I wrote them all in the 5 minutes before I made this video. So we'll do the first one. It's called Bookstore. Customer complains, you're only a bookseller, while seeking advice. Notice the while seeking advice part, that's the thing. It's a very common trick in haiku. You give you a whammy at the end that sort of subverts the first 2 lines. Okay, then we're going to do, this is the next one. It's called Kal-El. Towers and turrets, a sudden all-consuming fire. Krypton detonates. And you notice there what I did, I used a longer word for explode or die in the 3rd line, detonate, to take up a lot of the line, and because the word for die or destroy or whatever is half the line or more, it throws emphasis back on Krypton, as all of a sudden you know what you're looking at. And also notice how that one progresses from images of beauty, towers and turrets, through all-consuming fire, which has a vaguely Christian, cathartic feel to it and might not necessarily be bad, to the thumper at the end, detonates. This next one is a little haiku I call Meg. 60 million years haven't at all diminished your killing beauty. So notice the fillip at the end there. It's not beauty, it's killing beauty. And diminished is such a long word. It hogs the space in the long middle line there to sort of emphasize the passage of time, to echo the 60 million years. There's something going on there. This next one is a gem I call Frida. Little puppy thinks, play, eat, sleep, drink, pee, poop, run. Also, bite, bite, bite. And you see what I did there to embody the simplicity and the playfulness and the directness of a puppy. I use primarily 1-syllable words, and in a traditional haiku of 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables, you can get a huge amount in if you stick to 1-syllable words. Look at all the activity and motion. Look at all the different aspects of puppyhood in that little poem. All because I used a string of bop, 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 1-syllable words. And then the last one, which I call Booktube. I talk to strangers about the most vital things. I'm a booktuber. Haiku. It speaks to us all. So that's it. That's day 5 of Litmas, in which we all try to put on our profound pants and talk about how moving haiku is. For the love of Mike, you people, I swear, if you really mean it, what you need to do is go outside for a nice long cold walk and then read some Homer. But we're done with that for now. We'll go on to day 6 tomorrow. If I remember correctly, I keep forgetting to look up the progression of these days, but if I remember correctly, day 6 is incredibly intriguing. I don't know where it came from. It doesn't feel like any of the other prompts in Litmas. I think day 6 is your story of literature, the story of literature in your life, which is incredible It's a great prompt on Adrian's part. And what I really wish, if we had planned this next year, when we do Litmas 2018, what I'd really like for a question like this would be if all of us did that day's video slightly tipsy. It can't happen now because there's no time for preparation, but that would be so much fun. But I'm not going to because I'm not going to for the simple and saddest reason in the world, because all the Hemingway and Fitzgerald mythos that you have ever heard notwithstanding, drinking is lethal to writing. If your writing means something, if it matters, if you're maundering and posing with a quill pen at your local pub, and what you really want is for the undergraduates to see you writing and maybe one of them think you might be cute still after all these years, then fine. But if you're at home and you have work to do, writing work to do, you can no more drink than you can take nitrous oxide. It's a drug. It's a mood-altering, sensation-slurring, brain-impairing drug. It happens to be one that I dearly love, but it won't be me making a tipsy video until I shift this load of work off of me, which I'm hoping to do by Christmas Day. So we shall see. We shall see. But in the meantime, I won't be doing day 6 of Litmas tipsy. Although I urge the rest of you to. You're probably all on school break now, so why not? Live a little. But in the meantime, I'll wrap this up and I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.